You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Really take a moment to assess two things. One, are you willing to delegate? Because a lot of people think they're willing to delegate. A lot of people have a team of people around them. But I always say, take a moment and look at your team. Who's responsible for the decision making at the end of the day?
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. This has been a long time coming. I am so happy to reunite with Kenzie Biggins. We served on the Intuit Small Business Council for the United States together. I rolled off, sadly. But what a great group of entrepreneurs and business owners that community is made up of. And Kenzie, you are one of those people that I really cherish the time that we had together on the council, got to know each other, and I'm so glad that we can continue our relationship.
Yes, thank you. And so sad to see you roll off, but thank you for setting the tone and paving the path for the rest of us.
Well, we all do what we can, right? So I want to hear all about your business. You are in the world of executive assistant solutions. And specifically with your company WorksBe, I want to have you explain a little bit about how you got into this business, why you decided this was your passion and pursuit, before we get into what exactly is an executive assistant versus an admin versus a virtual assistant and all the other things that we think of.
Yeah. So walk down this really nerdy path.
Yes, please.
I went to grad school, actually at Savannah College of Art and Design, and my master's was in luxury and fashion management. And my graduate degree, we were coming out of the Great Recession at that point in time. So my graduate degree and thesis was all about improving the American economy through the production of luxury goods. So how do we take a highly skilled labor force and connect them to meaningful work? And I mean highly skilled from the fact of you just can't learn it in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Certain positions, like being an amazing designer, an amazing craftsman, is not just what you learn from a basic level, but it's also what you learn from others around you and how you choose to be a student of your craft and continue to hone your craft in order to then become this next level of artisan, or in my case, executive assistant. So coming out of school, I actually had a social media agency. And at that point in time, if you did one thing on the internet, people thought you knew everything about the internet. I mean, this was 2009, 2010. So people were just like, do you know about virtual assistants? And I was like, no, I run a social media company. What are you talking about? But it was one of those things where I got so many questions in a short period of time that I was like, okay, I need to sit down and really look at this. And the more I studied it, the more I realized it aligned with my graduate thesis. So I just started playing with the idea more and ended up meeting with an executive from Coca-Cola the week she was retiring. And she was like, I need help. She was like, I retired this week. I don't have help. I need help. And I was like, I've been playing with this idea, and maybe our niche is executive assistants. And she was like, that's perfect. Figure it out. I'll be your first client. So she
Okay.
She was our first client back in 2012 and is still a client today with the very first EA we ever bought on to our network. But it's turned into a passion. It's turned into a journey. I mean, primarily it is a very female prominent workforce for executive assistants, and really trying to help them, one, be celebrated, but two, build stability for their households. EAs have gone through a lot, from the Great Recession, from furloughs and layoffs there, to the pandemic, furloughs and layoffs, to, kind of economic ups and downs we've had more recently, furloughs and layoffs. So they want a place where they can have a little more stability and have a little more ownership over what their career path looks like. And we are able to provide that for them.
That is such a great, succinct description and journey. So let's dig in a little further. Going from luxury to then when you had your social media agency, was that based on luxury goods as well?
Yes, I think it's
Right.
that servant leadership heart piece of it. So the social media piece, I go back to my thesis. So my thesis, there was this whole social media strategy written in as part of the thesis that was really prompted towards a nonprofit foundation type sector. And the more I dug into it, the more I was like, all these nonprofits and foundations don't have access to all this stuff that I have just learned. So I spent my time really training nonprofits and then small businesses how to use social media and how to really think about their brand and present their brand online. It let me actually traveling the country training with a group to train
Nice.
newscasters on how to use social media when it was not on their list of things to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that led into, obviously, assistance. Well, thinking about, because I haven't worked with a US-based executive assistant. I'm a very small business, right? I do have friends who are executive assistants full-time in organizations and make really good money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also have to have multiple phones and manage multiple people's schedules and
24/7. Yes.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit about executive assistants, what kind of roles you're placing people in. Are these part-time? Are they full-time? Are they contract? And then what is the difference between having an executive assistant versus other kinds of assistants or admins?
Yes. So one, I do think the executive assistant is completely underappreciated as a whole. When you look at a Fortune 500 company and the executive assistant that supports the CEO, I mean, they are on 24/7. They know every single secret in that building. So it can be very lonely, one, but it's also very demanding. In some ways, they could probably do the CEO's job. But realistically, I go back to that servant leadership mentality of they don't want to be out on the forefront. They want to support somebody. And EAs find joy in helping others really step into the spotlight and really shine and helping celebrate them and helping them be amazing. So one, there's that EA role that lives in the high corporation set of things. But then there's a lot of businesses, small to mid-sized businesses, nonprofits need access to EA support, but they can't afford that executive assistant. He's supporting the corporate CEO of a Fortune 500. So we focus on providing fractional support.
Nice.
I mean, it may be as little as 40 hours. It goes up from there, just depending on the person. But one, it's someone who is fractional, so you're not worried about the full-time piece of things. You have a little more flexibility. But two, it's also the piece of, especially depending on where you're based, you may not have access to the talent. And that's twofold. It may be you're in a smaller market, so you don't have access to an executive assistant readily, or maybe that you're in a huge market and there's so many corporations around you that why would an EA come and work with your small business or nonprofit when they have these other resources? So we're able to step in and really look at how much support do you need and how to get you connected to someone who has that next level of experience.
Yeah. So are your people based in the US?
They are. Yes. That is US based. Part of that, coming out of my thesis, again, the thesis is the theme. My thesis was on improving the American economy. So it was really looking at the US labor force. But another key piece of that, which I think about way too much, is sarcasm. And sarcasm go across all cultures. So especially when you're dealing with US-based business people, we use sarcasm just as a way of communicating in general. And if you're someone who just communicates quickly like that, it's not always natural to slow down your communication to think about things being taken literally. Mm-hmm. You're having an exchange of needs or support that you need at that moment. So some of it's sarcasm. The other thing is I find in the US, we define executive assistants differently than other countries.
What is one of those key differences?
I think it is our corporate culture as a country. And unfortunately, it is our, how should I say, our unhealthy relationship with the world as a country that we really have this, I call it like the mush mentality of like, we get it done aggressively. We always are focused on this higher business, get it done, don't take vacation, just keep moving all the time. It's not healthy, but it is how we are accustomed to doing business. So when other cultures take, a little more relaxed, take vacation, take time off, a little more balanced, we don't always interact with that as well.
Yeah.
We need to work on it though.
Yeah. Yes. Big yes. And your services are subscription based. Do you have all of your executive assistants in your company as full-time employees?
So no, we don't. So our focus is really, and here's the funny part. We started off with everybody being full-time employees. What we found was more people who wanted to have their own businesses and grow them. But it's really hard to grow your own business once you're supporting someone as an executive assistant because you don't have the time to go out and sell. And you probably don't really love selling that much.
Okay.
So a lot of what we do is based on how do we help people run better companies so they can join our network. We help pair them with clients. They're actually able to talk to all the other EAs in our network. So, resources, conversations, ask questions. And then we also have a professional development series where, things change. The EA community was not talking about AI 2 years ago. So things change. So we offer professional development and roundtables and things for our EA community to come together and keep learning. I say, always talk about being a student of your craft, but it's so key in the EA world where every 6 months, the needs and demands of clients kind of change as the world evolves.
Yeah. Yes, I love this because it's a way for primarily women to earn an income while they're also building what they want or being able to spend time with their families, be the stay-at-home mom with work on the side as well. So that's really beautiful. But a big question I have is how do you find the right people? Because I have worked, again, not with US EAs. I've worked with virtual assistants in other countries, sometimes really, really well. Other times figuring out, they don't really understand, like the language barrier might be too much. They don't really understand what my work is, and so there are those issues. And then I know other organizations that say they have highly trained VAs from overseas because they put them through a robust program. So what do you do to make sure that the people you're bringing in fit your culture, your values, and will be the right fit for clients? As a business owner myself, I can tell you that finding the right people to hire is absolutely brutal. You post a job, get flooded with hundreds of resumes, but somehow still can't find anyone with the actual skills you need. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/work. Here's what makes ZipRecruiter different. Their smart technology actually identifies the top talent for your specific roles super quickly. The moment you post your job, their matching system starts showing you qualified candidates immediately. Plus, you can reach out to your favorite candidates right away using their pre-written invite to apply messages. No more waiting around, hoping someone will notice your post. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/work. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Yes. So we always say, one, we're not in a place where we can be a training ground right now. I would love actually to be a ground for EAs, but that is further out in the future. But it's EAs coming in, one, who have experience that they're bringing in. But we also have a really detailed vetting process. So in my previous life, I did recruitment for Target. So if EAs get to our process for interviewing with Worksby, they're like, oh, this is much more intense or rigorous than I thought it would be. So, we have our application, which we're not just looking at the basic things you're filling in. We're really looking at everything. We have an assessment process to really assess skill sets. We have an interview that we go through. I tell everyone, and I'm very open about it. We use behavioral-based interview questions. So we want real life examples. And we also have a second interview where they're walking us through an example of their work. We have reference checks. We have background checks. So like we have gone through a ton of information. In some ways, there is an aspect that's like the Zappos model, as far as if someone makes it through all of that and they get into our network and then we're like, I don't know, like something kind of gave me a red flag there about like communication or how something happened. We go back and we're like, don't know if we're going to be able to pair you within our model and our network. We're actually getting ready to push feedback in a more aggressive way. I am on a soapbox right now about feedback because it feels like we as a country have lost some of our soft skills, feedback, and how we interact with each other. So, we have a lot of EAs pushing for feedback, but also in how we provide feedback for them just to make it a second nature to them.
And truly constructive.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. A true exchange, right? So how is it the leader and, the person supporting them who are having an exchange about feedback instead of just one direction or no feedback at all?
Yeah. Well, transitioning from social media or all things digital, right? Into focusing on executive assistant solutions. What was that transition like? Was it difficult? I know you got the one client pretty quickly, but in terms of just moving over, shifting your brand identity, your company identity.
Yes. So I tell people all the time, my greatest joy and my greatest stress are the exact same thing. And that is the fact that I have all these people looking at me like to help stabilize household incomes, help think through how they're being supported and how they're moving forward. So I would say the jump from one to the other, like it went from kind of disconnected relationships where, yes, I have clients we're supporting on a social media side, but usually that was like going in, training, walking through some things, walking away. These are very long-term, intimate relationships. One, for our clients, usually the EA is the most intimate relationship to their significant other, as far as someone who really gets to know them and wants to know about them and wants to dig in to figure out all the things. But it's also on the leadership side, it's having an internal operations team, but also having this network of people who are kind of looking to you for direction, culture, which very big on culture and how we set the stage. How do we protect the EA who's being mistreated? How do we help guide them through how they can be a better EA? So I would say the shift for me was really these disconnected relationships to these very intimate relationships all the time. Like all the time. I had a conversation with my COO and with a friend the other day where I was like, the leaders are basically turning into like the parents. Like you kind of have to know what's going on in order to keep the train moving forward, in order to keep everybody motivated and engaged. You have to engage on a deeper level. And I feel like that's become even more relevant now as we're helping people navigate things. I mean, AI is a wonderful thing, but it's also a very scary thing for some people. It's also, you have the people like me who are very much thinkers. So the way I approach and look at it is very different. So even like walking people, because that's, biggest change, immediate change I could think of right now, walking people through things like that and helping them feel stable like that I feel is a change that nobody talks about when you're entering a service business. And I would say for anybody listening to this who's like, no, I'm in a service business, it's still disconnected. What are you talking about? It's probably time to take a step back and reassess as far as, why do people work with and engage with you and want to be a part of your team? Company culture, I feel like, has kind of gone away and we need to bring it back in a robust way.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. But it's interesting on my side of things, looking at marketing PR angles and how people deal with brands in that side. We know that people want authenticity. They want to know who you are, what your values are up front. So it's interesting that some companies and organizations still don't do that and are starting to wake up maybe to, oh, I do have to be the face of my company, of my brand, no matter what the industry is. It can be home services, it can be whatever. But you do have to be involved in that fashion so that people understand whether they want to work with you or not as clients, but also as teammates, as EAs, as all, everything. So what are some of the things about AI that you're seeing from either side, the client side or the executive assistant side, that are surprising moments for them?
Yes. So number one surprising moment for us, I had spent years, I started doing this 12 years ago. So then when I told people like, hey, I can pair you with a virtual executive assistant, people looked at me like I had 8 heads and they were like, you've lost your mind. You have absolutely lost your mind. And AI has, interestingly enough, given people a greater understanding of where they actually need a human to stand in the gap for them. So I do think AI models are very disruptive to assistants. They're very disruptive to assistants if the leader is good about giving detailed instruction to set up what they need. A lot of leaders don't have that time, though. They need someone who they can just like, hey, let's status. Here's what I'm trying to figure out. Here's what I'm trying to walk through. And the EA has the not just emotional intelligence, but I call it the technical emotional intelligence to look at the problem, think through the problem, and then say, here's where we need to apply AI to get this problem solved in this moment. So it has been very interesting to see all of a sudden people are like, oh, I need an executive assistant. Like I thought I needed an assistant before. I thought I needed a virtual assistant, but I actually need an executive assistant because I can do the basics, but I need someone who can really help me think through the thing to get it done. And at the end of the day, it's still like the scheduling. It's still the email. It's still the process development. It's still researching to figure out, which CRM will be the best. But it's someone who can really think through it and who heard you when you talked about like the budget concerns or the concerns about how it will be adapted within the company. It's someone who's going to think through all that and use AI to do the research to then come back and present a product versus a leader having to sit there and figure it out when they should really be working on something else.
Yeah. Example I'm thinking of right now for myself is I use Fixer AI for my emails. And as it gets to know you, it gets better about how to answer your emails. But I still have probably 99 draft emails in my draft folder that it has drafted for me.
Yeah.
I don't have time to get to that because I'm going to be interviewing people for the podcast. I'm going to be setting up other systems, making sure all the workflows for my clients are going well. So I feel like even with AI, I keep thinking I just need another person though to then go through, answer, push yes or edit the emails slightly for the ones that I don't really need to pay attention to, and then put the ones I really, really do need to pay attention to in a special folder that I can then review once a day.
Yes.
Right?
Because it still takes time.
Yeah. So it's still, AI has been a great help for me, but that still doesn't replace the need for somebody else to have that be that second set of eyes.
Definitely. And there is, no one wants to send the AI email, right, where it sounds nothing like you.
Yeah.
But it's finding that balance. And once again, having that person who has the technical emotional intelligence to look at it and be like, this word should be changed. This should be adjusted. And how do I make this work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Even things like, I finally took my calendar off because it wasn't even going to the right calendar. It was also giving people a calendar link that doesn't exist.
Oh.
But then also everybody who pitches me for the podcast, it was saying, yes, you'd be a great guest. Let's schedule blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. I have a whole process for that.
Yes.
I'll have to go through. So how expensive is it to hire an executive assistant in the United States versus finding an admin or a VA or somebody overseas?
Yes. So, that's a loaded question because there's so many things. Okay. So one, the offshore EA model really became very robust here. I wouldn't even say during the pandemic. I would say more post-pandemic. So like 2022, we started to see, lots of things coming out of just all over the place. I think the challenge is, I'm just going to be transparent here. The challenge is now with AI, a lot of them have plugged in AI to the point where all of your requests are being run through AI before they get to a human. So I think there are some data privacy issues, some places, not everywhere, but I'm just saying like we've seen it a little too much for my personal comfort.
Yeah.
People are going offshore. And it is cheap, right? Like they came in and really disrupted the market. And I've seen it across all of my peers in the industry as far as one, offering insanely cheap pricing that I was like, there's no way we could pay somebody in the US that much to do that. Two, it is also the terms that they were offering. Like, there are no terms. But then we would hear stories of people signing up and they would want to end service and they couldn't even find anybody to help them end service. So like there's a couple companies out there that are doing a great job with offshore resources, but we just keep hearing these stories where I'm like, well, when you're paying $3 an hour, or when you're like, sometimes you're getting what you pay for in those models. But I've also seen it be insanely successful. But I feel like that tends to be with smaller organizations that people are working with versus some of the larger ones when they're going offshore. And I always tell people to look at how many layers you have to your actual virtual assistant. So sometimes offshore too, there'll be like a layer of 10 people between you and your virtual assistant, basically propping it up. But you need to be able to work directly with a person. So that's that side of it. It can be insanely cheap. I'm not going to lie. If you were on a budget, that is the way to go. But I would just say be very mindful of how your information is being directed through their systems, on everything through their app. I would be mindful of like, where's that information going on this app?
Interesting.
And also it's the conversation of, are you working with an executive assistant or are you working with an assistant? And I think that big difference is the person who creates their own to-do list, not tomorrow. Let me say this. An EA is not a magic bullet. They still got to get to know you. They still got to learn your preferences. They want to hear your feedback. Like they want to know all the things. So, it's the person who you're giving them a to-do list every day and they're just checking it off and not thinking about the outcomes of doing one thing before another. Versus, so, you step into executive assistant realm. This is the person who in the long run is going to put together their own to-do list and start managing things for you. And you start feeling very comfortable taking vacation. And, things are just moving. Executive assistant pricing, especially US based, varies wildly. And I say it varies wildly because like if you go on to Upwork, you can find an executive assistant, they may be charging $250 an hour. Like, it varies the full gamut. At the other end of this, the thing I tell people to be aware of, there are lots of companies out there that use the language of assistants and executive assistants interchangeably. So they're selling assistant services based in the US and they may be selling it for $40 an hour, but they're actually selling assistant services, not executive.
Okay, interesting.
Services. So we tend to fall right from a starting perspective. We fall in the $69 per hour range. It goes down from there depending on the length of the agreement. And of course, like discounts for nonprofits, all those types of things. But it's also, we always say we're narrow and deep about executive assistants. So like we don't offer assistants. We offer executive assistants. And this falls in the same category. We offer executive personal assistants. So we're seeing more corporate, professional women in leadership who are like, listen, I have an EA at work, but I need someone to do this for me at home. Like, I sit on boards, I chair nonprofit boards, I, serve in the community, I do all these things. So that is what we do. We are all about the executive assistant experience. We're all about that person with the higher level of experience. But you can, like I said, you can be charged any amount of money. We've even seen people charging in the same range we are, but for assistance. But the website makes it seem like it could be either or. You won't quite know what you're getting.
So talk about the difference between an assistant and an executive assistant. Besides that, I think executive assistant, I think they know the ins and outs of my schedule, how I speak. They're comfortable speaking on my behalf, scheduling things.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Yes. Yeah. So I always say the executive assistant is the person that you would have them talk to any CEO and not be stressed about it.
Nice.
Like there is a level of emotional intelligence that you expect with an executive assistant for them to navigate situations. Because, lots of times you think about corporations, right? When the CEO gets that angry email from somebody, it's the EA that gets it first.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing for any of our EAs supporting someone, like they have to be able to read something and filter through it and not just, fire off a response. They have to be able to prioritize scheduling without someone saying to them, for the entire course of the relationship, who's most important. It really is that person who's helping you think through your day. And there is such an art to keeping a calendar. There is such an art to keeping email. It's amazing to me. I mean, because let's face it, we're a remote company. So we have tons of people who apply every day just because we are a remote company. And they're like, well, I want to work remote, so I can do that.
Yep.
When people say things to me like, well, I keep an email for myself, or, I help keep up. But I'm like, that is not the same as keeping an email for somebody else. In like the art of calendaring, not just keeping a calendar, not just scheduling. It is truly an art. Or talking to other EAs, because other EAs give much more preference to talking to an EA than they do just the random person calling in. There's a level of respect there that it is truly an art form. It is also something that, and this is why I get really passionate about like the professional development we do and looking at training in the long run. So much training within corporations has been lost. And this is since the Great Recession, in my opinion. Like that ongoing training that used to be provided is no longer there. So that nature of internal training that used to just happen among peers is no longer there. But that's where we got a lot of these support roles that are so key to companies. So it's like, how do you keep that going? How do you continue to find that next level of talent? And that probably is why we are so passionate about our vetting process and how we bring people into the network, but also that passion about EAs and why they're just so important to a great leader in making their life better.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why they are worth the money, but I can also see how that for a small business could be cost prohibitive if somebody were full-time. So the fractional idea makes so much sense.
Yes. And so what people don't know, I think about a search I did a couple years ago for an EA who would be based in the New York area. And this is probably a little bit more executive personal assistant, which tends to be higher on the range. But I mean, we were looking at a base of $200K plus bonuses. And people are like, what? Like, being an EA is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. No, the friend of mine who's full-time at a very large organization gets paid 150 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And great benefits. But she has to be on call.
So you need
manage 3 people's schedules, book all their flights, book any entertainment or things they want to do for team building. And that sounds maybe to some people who are listening not that important, but it's so important. If the, executive is going to get things done.
I mean, I tell people all the time, it is, especially so from an entrepreneurial perspective, you will understand this. Think about all the great ideas you have that are just living in a notebook. Because, You haven't had the time to sit down. Even though AI makes life much easier for us, there's other things that are the priority for you in that moment. And being able just to be a human who has a life, eat
Yeah,
some
what is that?
all that sort of
Yeah.
things. Just that piece of it alone, it's time, right? So time is the barrier. But if you had someone who you could say like, hey, I thought about this idea. Could you spend like an hour doing some research and looking this up and just letting me know like what other companies are doing it? That is the amazing value of an EA, that they may ask you a couple of questions to help them get started, to make sure they're getting all the information you need. But as an assistant at a baseline, you really need to provide a detailed like checklist of what all you need vetted. An EA may come back with things you weren't even expecting or thinking about. And it really is that brain space to maximize your ability of how you show up in the world. Like, think about scheduling alone is a thing. If you never had to schedule another thing again, even with all the tools out there in the world that help you schedule, there's always the person that emails like, oh, I can't make this work, or like last minute change, or something's happening. If you could remove every single piece of that off of your plate, and we just give the access at a fractional point instead of having to commit to full time, because that can be accessible. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And have you had, like, this is not the right way to ask this question, because I know you've had some ups and downs in the course of having this business for so long. What would you say is one of the highest points and an epiphany moment where you said, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah.
This is where I thought I would end up with my servant leadership heart.
I'm taking a moment because I do feel like entrepreneurs, leaderships we can miss those moments of like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. Or like, oh, I've hit this pivotal point, because we are so busy looking and thinking about the next thing that needs to happen. It's things a lot. I tell people all the time, especially when I'm speaking to students, I'm like, I can't tell you when we made our first $100,000 because I was thinking about the next thing that needed to happen. And I should have stopped and celebrated that moment, because it was a milestone. Like, a lot of businesses don't make it to 100K. A lot of businesses don't make it to $1 million. A lot of businesses don't stay above it. I can share with you kind of like high moment, greatest lesson.
Yeah, please bring it on. Bring it on.
So, and in 2021, early 2021, we were featured on 60 Minutes, which...
Okay. I mean, 60 Minutes. That's
Yeah.
you.
Minutes. Yes. And it was, it was one of those things where they sent an email and my team was like, we think somebody's spamming us. Like, someone's trying to play a joke here. We're not sure what's going on, but it was actually 60 Minutes reaching out. So, we do this feature on 60 Minutes talking about the big quit and how people are realigning their lives. One of our EAs was featured on it. So all of a sudden we were dealing with the Oprah effect, but it wasn't Oprah, it was 60 Minutes. And we're dealing with all these people like ascending on our business, which like, I guess I expected, but I was also kind of naive to what it was really going to look like.
Yep.
And we ended up with this list of people for sales calls. Like, we were booked 3 months out, and this is with, 3 people taking calls 8 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
Booked out into forever. And I had this guy get on the phone with me, and he was like really, really angry. And he was like, you need to open up more spots, and you just need to hire more people, and da-da-da-da-da. And I had the greatest moment of clarity. And I was like, this is a moment in time. I will sink my business if I do things based on a moment in time versus thinking about our long term.
100%. Yep.
And I feel like, especially coming out of the pandemic, I'm now seeing all the people who did stuff for a moment in time versus really thinking about that long term impact. There are even things that I had to unwind myself from, even knowing that lesson and learning that lesson. There's still been things I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, no, like the lesson, it's okay to say no after you've said yes. Sometimes you need to back yourself up a little bit to the right point. But yeah, I think that is the biggest lesson. I mean, I would do 60 Minutes again. I would walk into it with a completely different mindset, though, as far as what is going on. But I think we as leaders, and it's not just the small or mid-sized business, it's every size. Like, how are you really responding for the long term versus the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is, I can see how that would be a double-edged sword.
Oh, yeah.
You got through it, and that guy who said he complained, he's not the right client for you anyway. So amazing. So, what advice would you give to somebody who is building their business, looking for the right fit for an EA?
Mhm. Oh, so many things. So one, I would say really take a moment to assess two things. One, are you willing to delegate? Because a lot of people think they're willing to delegate. A lot of people have a team of people around them. But I always say, like, take a moment and look at your team. Who's responsible for the decision making at the end of the day? And this is an EOS lesson too, entrepreneurial operating system, where they kind of walk you through, here are all the decisions that have to be made in the company. No person should own more than 3 decisions. So if you are the person where everything has to land on your plate and you're unwilling to, it's really a trust issue, right? You're unwilling to because you don't trust people. That's not going to magically be remedied with an EA. If you are open to like learning how to delegate and learning how to trust people, we can help you and get you there, but not just going to magically happen. Same thing, trust exercise. You have to be willing to give feedback. In any leadership relationship, you have to be willing to give feedback, but especially to your EA. I remember being cornered at a reception one time because, you know, when people find out I work with EAs, they have questions. So I remember being cornered by a guy and he was like, I don't like the font my EA uses on a spreadsheet. And I was like, have you told her? And he was like, well, no. And I was like, I am 99% sure she would be happy to change the font. It would not bother her. And she would just love feedback from you on it. But you have to be willing to communicate feedback directly with your EA. Just, and I think, you know, I go back to, this is just a lesson for all leaders right now. And I tell our EAs, because they're like, no, they're executives. They know how to give feedback. I'm like, leadership is the worst at giving feedback. Maybe because we don't want it. Just feedback is not given. But there needs to be something within you where you're open to the idea of, one, just saying, here's how I want this done, or I don't like the way this is done, or let's talk about this. Because there's also, if you're working with an EA, especially a really strong EA, at some point they're going to start giving you feedback too. So you need to be comfortable in that, building a relationship, building trust, delegating ownership, and being willing to have this feedback loop that you're willing to create with another person.
Yeah, fantastic. Kenzie will obviously have your website in the show notes so people can get in touch with you, learn more. This has been really enlightening for me, and I know for the audience as well, thinking about the future of work, the economy, going back to your thesis, and what we really need to look for in this day and age to shore up our companies and our businesses right now. And yeah, there might be some AI, but there also still is the human element that's so important.
Oh, yes. There needs to be a balance of it all. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
Oh, there's so many things. I keep saying that, but there are so many things. I mean, I think about, my mom would say a lot, life is not a dress rehearsal. So thinking about how you're moving through life day to day, that is something that comes up a lot. There's also my dad's favorite quote. He's like, sometimes you just got to sit down and be like, F it. And I feel like it's very valid at points, because sometimes we can get so caught up in our heads that we've created something that doesn't need to be something. And we have to have the ability to walk away or put it on a shelf and not react to it, even if we've worked on it forever. So yes, those would be my two things. My mother, of course, would hear this and be like, I can't believe you shared that about your father's quote, but the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something we all need. It's a reality. So
yeah.
Awesome. It's so great to see you and to have this conversation and to be able to, I know we're going to stay in touch, and I'm going to keep on hearing what's going on with your business and what you see, and maybe we can get some more insights at where we're at this time next year.
That would be perfect. I would love to catch up again.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. Definitely check out Kenzie's offerings. I think we all have to realize that, you know, we have only a finite amount of time, and we need to make the investments in the right places in our business to have growth and be able to have solid futures for ourselves and our families.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'll see everybody who's listening or watching this episode again very soon with another great entrepreneur sharing their tips, tricks, and some advice for you. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams Super Sale and get 40% off paints and stains September 19th through the 24th. With prices starting at $29.39, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.